Hello everybody, I'm Soumya Murthy. Today I'm making this video on use of biotechnology techniques in agriculture. So this would be very helpful to students who will be learning agricultural economics. So this is related to the second chapter of agricultural economics. So let's begin with the usage of biotechnology and what exactly is this and how we are using this biotechnology in agriculture. So biotechnology is basically the application of scientific techniques to modify and improve plants. It's not necessarily just crops or plants. Basically, it's also related to animals or living organisms. So it is this area where biotechnology is made use of. Whatever is required, that part of technology, we are also applying it to agriculture. So this is extensively used on animals, living organism, plants. So here we're discussing about how we are using it for agriculture. So this has been practiced for a long period of time, and as we have seen and known, we have seen the breeding of organisms which has been happening for a long time, and this we also see in terms of crops. So when we take an example, the development of the disease resistant wheat, we have a special variety of wheat which is disease resistance. This is obtained by cross-breeding different wheat types until the desired disease resistance is present in that particular wheat. So when they're trying to do this, a new variety of wheat is available, which is basically disease variant. Moving on to genetic engineering. Genetic engineering allows transfer of DNA between more distantly related organisms that was possible with traditional breeding techniques. So today this technology has reached a stage where scientists are taking one or more specific genes from nearly any organism. That could be plant, that could be animals, bacteria, viruses, and introduce those genes into another organism. So we see that there are certain advantages of using these biotechnology or these methods of biotechnology in agriculture. So let's discuss about the advantages. Firstly, we see that there can be an increase in the crop yield. Now we all know that India is a very populous country, so we always have this demand to cater to the population wherein you're providing sufficient food crops or food grains is very important. So now to make that possible, we need some kind of a stimulant or some kind of an extra thing that would help us to increase our agricultural produce. So one of the techniques or methods to increase our production of food crops or food grains is by using biotechnology. Here, they also try to reduce the disease possibilities in the crops, and they try to, bring that kind of a crop which is made more drought resistant. And what they do is that they take these specific genes of the disease resistant and inject them into the DNA of the plants to make them drought resistant. So as we discussed how genes were made use of in the genetic engineering, that technology is being used here to bring a crop which would be drought resistant and also disease resistant. Then about moving on to the further concept of protection to crops, farmers always try to increase his productivity. Now to do that, one, he has to see to it that he gets a good crop. Two, he has to see to it that once he has got the crop production, it is necessary for him to check and protect it from pests. So we can see how insects or pests are killed so that there is increase in productivity. So we take the example of this BT crops. So this is because the plants have been transformed in a way to make such a protein that is toxic to those plants or the pests. So whatever pests are there in the plants, the protein that has been taken will be from the plant to, so that the toxic thing that is there of the pest is taken and injected. This way, the whole plant is becoming insect resistant rather than just the part where the insect resistance is applied. So what happens is you're not just protecting a part of your plant, you're trying to protect the entire plant. So that would help you to grow more crops or have a better yield. So coming to the nutritional value, biotechnology doesn't only make plants to become more resistant and to the worsening climate change, but also makes it literally better off in terms of the nutrition. So we can alter or increase the nutrient value in a particular crop. So it's not just about controlling the disease or the pests or making it drought resistant. We are also trying to protect or increase the nutritional value. So specific isolated genes that can be inserted into the genome of plant species to increase the nutrition value is taken. Now, this theory was initially put into practice with rice. So we can take the example of rice. Rice, as we all know, is one of the most important staple food in the world. So everybody we know are consuming rice. So now they have discovered the rice by injecting a genome plant into this rice, which has added vitamin A into the genes. Now these plants, when they are grown, or when we have the rice being grown, have this extra vitamin A. So we all know how vitamin A deficiency causes blindness, so which creates a lot of problem earlier. Now can be corrected by bringing this nutritional value of vitamin A through the genes. So basically, bringing in the improvements in nutritional value, how can a DNA technology help or activate or increase the amount of beta carotene in the golden rice, what we call now, has been introduced because of the biotechnological techniques. Now, the higher the amount of beta carotene, then we say there is more vitamin A that is given to the rice variety. So we all know vitamin A is causing the deficiency. Because of the deficiency in vitamin A is causing blindness. Also, we have something called as enhancement in food production process. So, uh, chymosin is an enzyme produced from genetically engineered bacteria. Now, this was first food product to get approval from the commercial for the commercial production. Now, this is replacing as an active agent of calf rennet used in cheese making process. So we all know for cheese making they are using this ingredient. Now this new enzyme is replacing the previous one. So coming to the flavors, as we all know, we all love to have different tastes and flavors. Now, genetic engineering is again altering the taste of the food or the food products that we consume. Now, for example, this is done by promoting the activity of enzymes that work to transform the aroma, precursors into flavoring compounds. So again, that aspect is also controlled. So you're not just controlling the nutrition part, not controlling the seeds or the crops or the pests, but we're also able to control and change the or alter the basic flavor of a particular food that we consume. Now moving on to the fresh produce or trying to increase the shelf life of the products. As we all know, agriculture is one commodity wherein the shelf life is too small. So it gets rotten when not stored properly. So here, biotechnology is helping to increase the shelf life of the GM food products, that is the genetically modified food. So, which could help in reducing wastage as well as allowing consumer access to fresher produce. So, by allowing the food products to stay ripened and preventing them from over ripening, minimal food would go waste. So this technique, they're trying to use it while shifting tomatoes. They try to grease it with these biotechnological methods wherein you don't cause the tomatoes to ripen so that the raw tomatoes reach the destination. Moving on to natural pesticides, with growing awareness of ill effects of the use of the pesticides in agriculture, there is much demand to reduce the use of pesticides. So, organic farmers have now started using all the natural insecticides. So basically, we are trying to, reduce the kind of pollution that we are causing to the soil, or avoiding soil erosion, or bringing down the pollution of water, lakes, and the groundwater. So we have moved, or the farmers are moving away from the regular pesticides to the organic forms. So let's move on to the disadvantages of biotechnology in agriculture. So if we had only all the positive notes, then probably everybody would have started using biotechnology. But there are certain drawbacks, as we say, in using this biotechnology in agriculture. One of the disadvantage we see is the allergens and the toxins. So most of us know that certain reaction is being caused when you take certain foods, which we call it as an allergy. And this allergic reaction, it is just an immune response to a protein that the body is specifically allergic to. So when you use something on your skin, or when you consume certain food or products, it's possible that your body reacts to it because you have an allergy towards it. So these proteins are called as allergens, and these products are present in the food product. So when you're bringing in biotechnology, somewhere we are making it more toxic because we are using this. Moving on to the resistance or the antibiotic resistance that we talk about, when plants are infused with a new desirable trait, the antibiotic resistance genes which are used to be there in the original traits or the traces change. Now this technique tells us that the gene transfer is successful. However, since this technique uses this antibiotic resistance gene, there is a concern that the new antibiotic resistant bacteria would emerge, which would be difficult to tackle with the conventional antibiotics. So you're already using this. Now the regular antibiotic or the conventional one which we're using would be difficult to look into the new antibiotics. Something called as super weeds. We all know how unwanted plants or weeds create a lot of problem. So the concern here is that the transgenic plants could pollinate with the unwanted plants. That is, it's the weeds that we are talking about. They are basically pollinating with the transgenic plants, and thereby delay the gene of herbicide resistance or pesticide resistance into them. So thereby converting them into super weeds. So it's not just the normal weeds that we have, we will have super weeds. So the next aspect that we see here is about the Genie escape. So some people believe that genes could get into the weeds and then those plants could escape into the wild and lead to damaging changes to the ecosystem. So we all know how our flora, fauna forms our ecosystem, which is so very precious, which has already been polluted and a lot of damage has been done. So to protect and make it more sustainable is very, very important. Now, when these genes get involved with the weeds or move to the wild, it can cause a lot of damage to the ecosystem. But the thing is, these biotech crops have limited growth, so that should be, one solace that we have, that we can escape, or maybe the damage will be not so big. And the seed dispersal habits, which doesn't allow much of a chance to pollinate. So there are chances of one spoiling the ecosystem, and one relief that we see here is that maybe it doesn't have a chance to pollinate because of the limited growth and seed dispersal. So we also see there are some effects on the non-target species. Many environmentalists believe that once these transgenic plants are released into the environment, there is a lot of uncertainty on what could happen. Although the transgenic crops are tested more times than one could count, but one can't foresee what could happen. So we all are very, very worried about what could happen to these crops. The insecticide resistance, when we talk of this, a valid concern is that the insect pests could develop resistance to the insecticide. So as we all know, once you start spraying the same pesticide and same thing has been used, there can be a resistance by the pests to these insecticides, because which is embedded in the biotech crops. Now, they could bypass the crop protection features of those plants and be quite damaging. And loss of biodiversity in organisms. The extensive use of agricultural technology or variety of seeds that have been made using the technology, and some agriculturists are also fearful that this may hurt the biodiversity of plant species. The newer developed crop could dominate the farmers, and the traditional varieties could be on the brink of extinction, which would mean that if any case of dominating crops were to wither, maybe due to climatical change, we would not have anything resorted to put this enormous food security at risk. Because usually what happens is the regular farmers try to protect and keep the seeds so that they could use it for the next cropping. So here you are using a biotechnologically developed crop, so you can't even harness it for your next crop. It is like a single use that we are seeing. So people argue that they have a right to know to what exactly they are consuming. So that is why they request that the labels tell you what exactly is there in the food products. So whether it's a genetically engineered crop or it's by organic farming. So organic food, usually it's from family farms, and that specifically avoids using any biotechnology in the growing crop. So they don't have to mention what they have used, because it's the normal regular food production that is involved in organic food. But rest of it, when you are using biotechnology, they are expected to tell on label what exactly they have made use of. And moving on to seeds, this is also known as genetic use restriction technology. Farmers are forced to buy new hybrid seeds every season because the second generation seeds from biotech crop are always infertile. So when there is no fertility left, you can't reuse them. As I said, it could be just a single use product. So this infertility is due to terminator genes present inside the GM seeds. So what farmers would save and use it for the next cropping cannot be done now, and it has become a single used pattern of seeds. So let's summarize as to what we have discussed in this video. So basically we discussed about the use of biotechnology in agriculture. So basically we all know biotechnology is something which is being used for bringing changes in terms of the living organism. It could be animals, it could be plants as well. So here we're discussing about how technology has been used to bring about changes in terms of the taste, in terms of being the seed, which is drought resistance, which can yield in more crops or increase production. So basically there were a lot of advantages that we saw when we used biotechnology in agriculture. So the flavors were changed accordingly, and a lot of vitamins being added on to the genes. But at the same time, there were many disadvantages as well when we used biotechnology. We found that the crops which are usually grown by the farmers, they make use of the seeds, would become, invariably it can't be used again and again. So it's a single time product that you can't use it because it's becoming infertile. So a lot of disadvantages did happen by using biotechnology. So this video is basically to help my students about agricultural economics or something related to biotechnology in agriculture. Hope it will be very beneficial to you. It gave me immense pleasure making this video. Thank you.